So the first councillor joined us this morning, believes companies should each take up a cause and that business must be a food for good. Italian business giant, Elio Leonicetti. Elio. There he is.
Here he comes.
He's coming.
Backing, thanks, Elio. The next councillor is obviously somebody who knows a lot about politics, but he's actually someone who knows a lot about business too, because before becoming president of Mexico, he worked at Coca-Cola, where starting out as a delivery truck driver and rising to be CEO of Coke for the whole region. President Vincetti Fox. Welcome back.
And the next one came to One Young World first in 2010 and the first former president among our councillors, the first Peruvian president of indigenous descent to be democratically elected in 500 years. President Alejandro Toledo, welcome back.
The next councillor has been a councillor since 2011. His organisation, School for Startups, helps entrepreneurs around the globe. He's an advisor to the UK government. He's run some of the world's biggest technology companies, and he's a former dragon from Dragon's Den, Doug Richard.
And first time on stage today, the Senior Vice President and Global Chief Marketing Officer at General Electric, who oversaw the founding of Hulu, Video on Demand, and is one of the biggest figures in marketing worldwide, Beth Comstock.
There was also a great article last week, so I think Beth just taken over running the lighting division at GE, and the article, unfortunately, was headlined, "The Woman Charged with Reinventing the Light Bulb." So, small task, that one. And then please welcome back, you heard from this morning, the guy who's driving banking to be a force for good, Global CEO of Barclays, Anthony Jenkins.
We have some of the world's most innovative business minds in the next group of young people talking about how technology will transform future business. Would you please welcome these delegate speakers? Woo! Good luck, boys. Who's first up? I think it's you. Is it?
Is it up to me?
Yes.
So it is a pleasure to introduce Lucy. Lucy Chapman is an incredible young lady. She has graduated very briefly in economics and politics and started at KPMG, where she started working in information in cyber security. But she believes that we should all make space in our lives every now and again to benefit a greater cause than ourselves. So she did just that, and despite having a brilliant career, she's been promoted the youngest assistant manager at KPMG, but she found time to go and climb Kilimanjaro. And she did that for Shelter. There's a homeless charity in the UK, and she raised the single biggest donation for Shelter as you went up, which I think is fantastic. And in the same year, she's in One World. Now, not enough of that, she's actually passionate about what she does, a job, and she's passionate about digital security, about internet and information security, because she believes that her generation and older, which I'm not sure makes out of all of us councillors, so her generation and older are not native enough to be confident with that. And so there is a lot of education that needs to be done. Lucy.
I wake up every morning, track my run on my smartphone, plan my route to work using an app. I use my e-reader on the train or check the morning's Financial Times on my iPad. I get to the office, open my laptop, and trawl through reels of emails. Throughout the day, I check my social media, upload a photo and maybe a witty comment or two, technology is becoming more and more present in our day-to-day lives. We create and use masses of data every day. A smartphone app plans my fastest route to work based on information given off by other devices about traffic, delays, or diversions. Insurance companies are encouraging us to put trackers in our cars to record driving speed or hours on the road so that they can promise reduced premiums for what they call safe drivers. But what about those that they deem more risky? Could they potentially face extortionate premiums in the future? Our data powers our technologies and enables the development of the next generation of gadgets. But when does this technology stop being a convenience and start being an imposition? Everyone needs to be aware of their digital footprint, aware of how to protect ourselves and protect our children. The next generation have a digital footprint before they're even born, when their parents upload photos or videos of their first few seconds on this planet to Facebook or Twitter. Did you know that Facebook owns the photos that you post? Consider the recent iCloud hacking scandal. Did any of those celebrities question the security of their photos? Are your photos equally as vulnerable? And how would you tell? Or the Heartbleed bug back in April. Millions of web users, 500,000 servers, and a huge number of sites were compromised. And what does a compromised password mean? It means perhaps not only access to that account, but access to personal information, perhaps bank details or national insurance numbers. And from there, criminals could potentially duplicate passports or driver's licenses and could steal your identity. 81% of large businesses and 60% of small businesses in the UK last year had security breaches. The potential impact of that is huge. Our data is sold to statisticians, marketing companies, and developers, and not always with our knowledge and consent. Do you know what information is being collected about you and by who? Do you know where it's being sent or what it's being used for? How can we protect ourselves, our children? What rights do we have and where does the law lie? I work in cybersecurity at KPMG. We use data to protect our clients and evaluate future threats. All businesses use data for marketing, recruitment, and to drive future sales. As business people, what responsibilities do we have to our clients and our customers? KPMG take a positive view of cybersecurity. It's not about restrictions and clamping down, but it's about enablement, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. We can empower ourselves through education. We can remove any fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We can use technology to its full potential under our full control. As individuals, at home and at work, we need to educate, question, and care. I've only been in the tech industry for 2 years, so I'm still learning too, but I visit schools, universities, colleges to talk to them about privacy and security. It's thinking about things like changing your password and only opening familiar emails and thinking about where you enter your bank details. It's something that often all of us don't really think about, especially young people, half of whom are cyberbullied in a generation that uploads everything to the internet. I want to see the world educated, for all of us to know how we can defend ourselves. There are 1,300 of us here today. If you run a business, an NGO, or a political group, raise your hand. If you're a leader of the future, raise your hand. Look around. Let's protect ourselves, our customers, our children. We are the leaders of the future. We have to take responsibility. Thank you.
you. Here to my left side, we have an agent of change. We have a leader. And let's not forget that leadership positions are everywhere in the world, at all levels, in all sectors, in any human activity. And I think John is that kind of an agent of change, bringing change to the basic primary sector of the economy. This sector of the economy has recycled itself. It's back to being a fundamental on growth and development, providing healthy, quality, sure food to all human beings in the planet. And that's not easy to do. I'm a farmer also, just like he is today. And when you associate commitment, leadership, passion with technology, there is no limit on what you can do. Technology today is the driving force to the future, and specifically information technologies, IT, which the large global corporations today have taken as the best instrument, the best tool to conquer new markets, to make new profits, to develop corporations to the future. I think that IT today is the invisible hand of Adam Smith. Behind every success, you will find an IT team working for that success. Today, Formula One winner is not the pilot, it's not the car, it's not the engine. It's the IT team behind, which is driving the driver, which is moving the car, which is accelerating the accelerator, which is second to second making a successful venture. So this blend that John works for not only brought Latin America to levels of 5% and over growth of GDP throughout the region. It's basically producing food, agribusiness, agriculture that is providing this new power engine to grow. Finally, one comment, and this is another great virtue and attribute of John. We have to connect the vanguard with the rear guard. We have those farmers, those ranchers, those cattle producers, those agro-industries that are real vanguard, that by the use of technology are producing what nobody thought in the past that could be produced. But we have that rear guard, poor without access to technology, without capacities to farm, without capacities to bring in quality and efficiency into their production. And what?
Modelo.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. It's Modelo, it's Corona. And so please go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you, President Fox, for the great introduction. And to the delegates, it's a real honor to speak with you today. 9 billion, our global population by 2050, and a number that is often presented as a concern. That in the face of climate change and limited resources, we will remain unable to feed our world. But that challenge presents a tremendous opportunity for our generation, an opportunity to use technology that brings us together like never before, across business, government, and civil society to achieve the unprecedented, ensuring global food security. Our generation can answer this challenge. Together, we can. I am the son of a farmer, and while I seldom recognized as a child, throughout my academic and professional pursuits, I have come to realize the invaluable knowledge of my father, the farmer. You see, he is the expert of his farm, knowing each field, its soil and its slope, and how to care for a crop and animal in the presence of an ever-changing climate and market. But his real genius, like most farmers that I work with today, lies in his determination, his interest in learning from others, and his eagerness to improve. Barley is the primary ingredient in our beers, and at Anheuser-Busch InBev, I'm responsible for developing barley across 4 continents and 25,000 farmers, a farmer network reflecting a spectacular amount of experience, knowledge, and expertise. However, within this network, we see startling differences in barley productivity, large gaps in yield and resource use efficiency across neighboring farms, both near and far. And thus, an opportunity. If we could utilize technology to bring our farmers together, providing a platform for them to share knowledge and exchange best practices, we can create transformational value for their farms and for our company. And so, together with colleagues and farmers, I led the development and launch of Smart Barley, a technology that allows barley farmers across the world to benchmark their barley production against one another through 43 crop performance measures. The platform is farmer-centric, empowering farmers to discover what is possible and then implement proven best practices, facilitating the exchange of knowledge between the developed world and the developing, so that a farmer in the United States can learn from a farmer in Brazil, and developing skills that not only apply to barley production, but to all crops that our farmers produce. Today, 2,000 farmers across 8 different countries are participating in Smart Barley, and we have plans to grow to new farmers and new countries next year. At the same time, we're working with leading scientists to develop models that capture the relationship between climate and barley production. Sharing these insights will help our farmers better manage a changing climate into the future. Through creating a knowledge-sharing platform, we can enable farmers to adopt the best practices and exchange the best practices that bolster productivity and take care of our environment. As the experts, farmers hold the key to ensuring global food security for today and for tomorrow. I challenge us all, whether in business, government, or civil society, to develop and disseminate technologies that allow farmers to teach and to learn from one another. By bringing our farmers together, we can feed 9 billion. Together, we can. Thank you.
Okay, Bob, thank you so much. In a few minutes, I will be catching a plane back to Washington and then back to Peru. But I will leave charged full of hope, because this is not a theoretical proposition. This is a concrete case of success. Let me introduce Victoria Alonso Perez from Uruguay. a young world, a young woman who has been able to use technology to help meet the challenge of food security through raising cattle with technology, with sensors, and a woman that also comes from the space technology. It is amazing. It is encouraging. It is a privilege. And so, before giving my tribute to Victoria, let me ask all of you, please continue with the education that you have combined with technology. But I have something to request. Once you conclude your studies in Europe and the United States, or wherever you are, please go back to your country. Your country needs you more than ever before. They need it. Victoria, you are part of the human capital that Latin America needs. And it is tempted to be at the Silicon Valley, where I lived. But I know that Uruguay, Latin America, will need you much more with the inventions that you have. Please give me a full applause to Victoria.
Thank you so much, President Toledo, for that great introduction. We are at a key point in the history of humankind thanks to the great advances of science and technology. It is of great interest to challenge these advances in new technologies that can improve one of our most important current issues, that is food security. It is estimated that by 2050, the production of basic staple foods will need to increase by 60% to meet the expected demand of a growing population. It is essential that we work towards an effective and efficient agricultural production, especially in the rural areas of the world. And this, in turn, will support our most vulnerable populations, regardless of culture, of national, regional, or continental economic development. In fact, in the world, there are over 1 billion poor farmers that depend on livestock. So when something happens to the animals, they are left with no income at all. In 2001, I could see how a foot and mouth disease outbreak severely affected the economy of my country, Uruguay, and of the whole region. You have to think that in Uruguay, our main source of export is cattle. So this not only affected the rural sector, but also the whole society, causing economic losses of more than $500 million. That for a small country like Uruguay, it's a lot of money, and creating poverty and unemployment. I even knew a family of farmers that had to sell their land for a very low price and move to the city with some relatives. Others were not as lucky and ended up in slums. So it was back then that I started thinking, how can there not be a technological tool to prevent this from happening, to prevent a whole country to go into an economic crisis? And that's how, years later, after I graduated as an engineer, in 2012, I invented ChipSafer. That is a platform that can track and monitor certain physiological parameters of the animals in an autonomous and remote way. And after inventing ChipSafer, I started talking a lot more with the farmers and asking them about their problems. And I realized that they have many more needs that I thought of. For example, they wanted to track herd movements, they wanted to improve productivity, and something that every farmer asked me for was monitoring and preventing cattle theft. That is a very big problem. So I modified my system to meet all these needs, and we are now increasing our production plans for next year to meet the expected demand. Our plans for the future are also to help the end consumer, because through the monitoring of agriculture and farming, everyone will be able to know exactly what they're eating, where it came from, and how healthy it is. Still, I could see that the rural areas are very technologically unattended. The farmers have many needs that my technology alone cannot meet. So we can and should do a lot more to help farmers with technological tools. New technology projects will not only help maintain the rural jobs, but also create new ones. According to the World Bank, agriculture represents 3% of the global GDP, and we should aim for this number to increase, bringing a substantial improvement in the quality of life. And I'm sure that with technological projects like Chip Safer, we are going to make this future a reality. So right now, I encourage all of you to go to a farm in your home and talk to the farmers that are the people that feed us. Listen to their stories and learn about their challenges, their frustrations, their opportunities. And if you think that you can use technology to help them, then do it. Not more talking, do it. And that might make the difference for all of us. Thank you very much.
Right. I didn't realize how eloquent former Latin America presidents were, and so I now feel I have to raise my game in my introduction. So let me tell you a bit about Aditya and Siddharth, who are to my left, and to put them in context a bit, because they're both quite accomplished. They both have excellent educations. They've both risen from beginnings to put themselves in senior positions in the financial industry in the City of London, and none of that's relevant, not today. What's relevant is what's happening in the world of finance. Because just as the worlds of music and the worlds of publishing have been demonstrably changed forever by the tidal wave of change that the internet creates, so too will money. There's a rise of a democratization of money, and that's a good thing. Because right now, the access to money itself is essentially a privileged access. Some people get better access than others. If you're a consumer, or if you're a small business, you get less access to money. There are gaps, huge gaps that are artificial. If you walk into an airport as a consumer and you walk by one of the many money changers, you're getting a raw deal. You know you're getting a raw deal. You're buying and selling money for no purpose except to be able to use the same money somewhere else, and somebody else gets a better deal. And across all areas of the finance industry, the same thing is replicated. And so what makes me very interested in what Aditya and Siddharth are doing is their startup that they do after work. They have a 9-to-5 job, and they have a 5-to-9 job. And the 5-to-9 job is a new business that introduces the peer-to-peer exchange of money in a very novel and possibly very scalable and impactful way. So, gentlemen, I give it to Aditya and Siddharth.
Thank you, Doug, for that introduction. We'd like to start by telling you two stories. A few years ago, I attended the One Young World conference in Zurich. My evening flight from London was delayed, and it was upon landing that I realized I'd forgotten to carry any Swiss francs. Now, landing in Zurich late on a cold, wet Wednesday evening with no francs in my pocket and not a currency exchange shop in sight was not a fun experience. Over the next few days, I met lots of people from all corners of the world, and I realized that if I'd struggled with remembering the right currency, others must have too.
I recently traveled to Dubai, and I had pounds in my pocket, and I wanted to convert them into dirhams. I surveyed multiple currency exchange brokers and realized that at best, the cost of converting pounds into dirhams and dirhams back into pounds was in the range of 5 to 7%. Moreover, the hassle of standing in line, as well as waiting in queue, was actually quite personally irritating. Made me think, wouldn't it be cool if we could come up with some mechanism whereby we could exchange cash, which would be cheaper, faster, more fun, and just cooler?
And it was these experiences which inspired us to create a tool to challenge the traditional model of changing currency. And so Barter, spelled B-A-R-T-R, was born. Barter is a peer-to-peer mobile application which allows people to meet and exchange cash in different currencies. Barter's purpose is simple: It is to give people the chance to save money by transacting with people around them at more favorable exchange rates relative to what they're getting at traditional currency exchange shops. In addition, barter aims to make the experience of changing money more fun by allowing users to transact with like-minded people around them. Aditya would now like to show you how it works very quickly.
What barter needs to know is three things: the currency you have, the currency you want, and the amount of currency you have. In this case, for example, you have 100 pounds and you want euros. What convert button does is just tells you exactly how much is 100 pounds worth in euros, which in this case is 127 euros. What barter does next is it lists all the matches of people around you who have exactly the opposite needs. For example, in this case, as you can see, it's listed Michael to Siddharth, and each of these users want pounds and have euros. You can chat with any one of them. You can sort them by rating or by distance. Let's say we pick Michael as a user who we want to chat with. Now, once you've had a conversation with Michael and come to some kind of an understanding as to what you want to exchange and at what level you want to exchange, you can then press on the map button on the top right-hand corner. This map button takes you to another page, which then lists your location, which is you. It lists a halfway midpoint between you and Michael, which is the midpoint on the top in the green, and also allows you to choose an independent suggested meeting point of your choice. Interestingly, the same meeting point then also lists within your chat, which in this case is a place in London, on which if you were to click, you can actually get a fastest route from where you are to this suggested meeting point. The whole point of the app being to make currency exchange easy in a 2 to 3 step process.
We think that's pretty cool. Now, we think that previous experiences at the One Young World Summit have in many ways laid the foundation for barter. In fact, both barter and One Young World share similar ethos. We're trying to improve the way we do things. Barter allows people to save their hard-earned money rather than squander it on unnecessary fees and commission. Currently, it is estimated that over $3 billion a year is spent on transfer commission, and this is something that we think is an injustice for many people. And we also think that barter can be part of the solution to this big problem. And so this is our call of action to you, One Young World. You are the very first people to know about barter, and we need you to make this work. Specifically, we need your help in 3 ways. Firstly, download the app right now. It's free on iOS and Android. Please tweet about it, and like our Facebook pages and follow us on Instagram. Secondly, please use it, even if it is a test transaction. There are 1,300 people here, and I'm willing to bet not all of you know each other. So use this as a platform if you need to talk to each other and to get to know each other. And finally, please contact us with your feedback and tell us what works and tell us what doesn't. We'd love to hear from you. Please remember what's at stake here. This is about letting people keep hold of their hard-earned cash. And barter is an app that Aditya and I would like to dedicate to One Young World. And with your help, it will go down in history as the first ever app created for the world by One Young World. Thank you.
I was trained as a biologist and have spent some meaningful time at my company, GE, creating a platform for open access to healthcare called Healthy Imagination. So you might imagine the thrill I have in getting to not only introduce but know Vibin Joseph. Vibin is the CEO of Biozine, which is an open source vaccine manufacturing and software platform. There's a couple things you need to know about it before you hear his story. It's only 5 years old, and already 2 out of 5 vaccines in the world are manufactured using his open source platform. The big guys, the big pharmaceutical companies, the life science manufacturers like my company have taken note and are partnering with Vibin and Biozine. Vibin was inspired to take on this challenge. He was trained as a biologist and as an engineer, and he was inspired when talking to a teacher and saw tears in her eyes when talking about the fact that people are suffering, indeed dying, by a lack of access to vaccines. And he said, I'm going to change that. Now, if that's not enough of why he should be an incredible, innovative leader for all of you, I think what Vibin represents is a knowledge of what leadership and innovation is about today and tomorrow. It recognizes that solving the biggest problems can't be done alone. They can't be done in a closed way. It's about collaboration, it's about partnership, and it's about the great energy and insight. And it recognizes that profits with purpose are all that matter. So thank you, Vibin.
Thank you, Beth, for the introduction. And good afternoon, One Young World. A few years ago, I met a young lady from Africa. From her, I learned how millions of children die from preventable diseases. And mothers do not even name their children until they've survived these diseases. And all because her country could not afford the vaccines. I want to share with you my realizations that inspired me to make a difference, and more importantly, create a company to try and solve this problem. Global organized businesses today are bigger than the economy of several countries. For example, the world's biggest pharmaceutical company, Pfizer, has more cash reserves than the United States. Yet, these global organizations feed just a fraction of the global population. And we cannot wait for nations to solve the problems of the world anymore. Global life expectancy is at its highest ever because of vaccines. And yet, despite that, 6.6 million children die every year because vaccines are not universally accessible. And that is a staggering 17,000 children dying every day for a technology that we've already created. But vaccine manufacturing is expensive, partly because of the regulations that have to be followed, and partly because these technologies are owned by just a few companies. Most vaccine manufacturers have to pay to use this technology. These are closed technologies like software from Microsoft and hardware like the Apple iMac, and they're expensive. I've come to believe that life-saving technologies should never be closed when millions die from preventable diseases. Like food, vaccines have to be a birthright. And for this, every single country should have the capacity to manufacture vaccines or buy vaccines. So 3 years ago, my company, I co-founded Biozine, was born. Its mission to enable companies manufacture vaccines that are affordable and by using a completely new approach, open source technology. We did not have a brand or a legacy and had to overcome skepticism and disbelief. As engineers, we looked at the hardware. There is something called bioreactors in which the vaccines are made. Traditionally, similar bioreactors were used for all the vaccines. We found that we could improve the productivity and reduce the costs by customizing the bioreactors for a particular vaccine. Then we looked at the software and created an open source automation platform to enable manufacturing systems to talk to one another at no additional expense. Companies could use our technology with their existing technologies or with anything they chose. Now, this was a first for the industry. Where previously companies were limited by the choice of consumables, we enabled companies of choice. And with choice came competition, and competition allowed them to reduce the prices, negotiate better, and in the end have better costs of manufacturing. Today, we are a partner to 2 of the 5 biggest vaccine companies in the world, and it's estimated that 1 out of every 3 children around the world get immunized with the vaccines that we help companies manufacture. As I'm speaking, thank you. And as I'm speaking, we're executing a major vaccine project in Africa. That's for diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. And in Europe, for polio. We are helping these companies reduce their costs by 12 to 35%. But more importantly, we are building a business that is humane, holistic, and honest. Today, we are 150 people with an average age of 28, working very hard to save lives. Making profits is a firm second. So this is my story, that David can win against Goliath. When business is pursued the right way, everybody wins. And One Young World, this is my suggestion. When you go back, I urge you to find alternatives to closed technologies. I urge companies to look beyond profits because time is short. Engage with universities because it's the people who should actually grow businesses, not technologies alone. Let us create an ecosystem of collaboration to make a world where everybody wins. So thank you, and God bless.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Jeremy Lamry on my left here. Now, Jeremy is the founder of a business called Monkey Tie. And he asked me to give a big shout out to all the Monkey Tie people who are watching this on the webcast. So Monkey Tie people, hi, big shout out from One Year World, Monkey Tie. That's your productivity gone up 15% right there. Now, Monkey Tie is a fascinating online recruitment platform. It's got some twists I'll talk about in a minute. But I asked Jeremy about, well, where did the name come from? It's an intriguing name. And he said, well, I used to work in finance, and there are all these people sitting there in suits, dressed a bit like me, and they look like monkeys in ties. And I thought, yeah, I employ a lot of people like that. That's kind of scary. But this Monkey Tie platform has taken online recruiting to the next stage because it doesn't just test for capability and experience and so on. It tests for cultural fit. It's active in France and a number of other continental European countries, and I'm very excited that it's coming to the UK later in the year. So we'll talk. Jeremy.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Jeremy, thank you. And I've been working in the IT industry for a few years now. So I understand a bit more about the backstage of technology. Technology is affecting our society and all the species on Earth in very various ways. It helps develop more advanced economies, but it also generates pollution and depletes natural resources. I will not debate here whether technology improves or worsens the human conditions. I will not speak about technology efficiency, and I will not tell you about the next big thing in tech business. No. I am here today to speak about wisdom. Technology in business is key for many reasons. Increase the efficiency of operations, foster innovation, to ensure the security of people, and to communicate better with customers and with employees. Technology today allows businesses to reach very large populations and to tackle very focused issues. In Silicon Valley, there is an expression that I like. Nowadays, if you want to become a billionaire, just find a way to solve the problem of 1 billion people. Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, they use technology as the platform for their business. They are all digital natives. Last year, I was on this stage at Johannesburg, talking about my new digital company, Monkey Tie, the first online affinity recruitment platform using individuals' and corporates' expectations and qualities to find the best match between candidates and recruiters. And trust me, the need is huge. Since then, I have observed some changes in the way we use technology and a growing misunderstanding of the role that technology should play in business. And I begin to question, how wise are we being? So, why the hell would I speak of wisdom when the topic is about technology in business? In the recruitment field, there are some businesses that do the same job as Monkey Tie, except that they won't ask about your personality. They won't ask you about your motivations and expectations, no. They will make an interpretation based on your existing online data. Engineers are the people who make technology, and algorithms are the processing tools that transform a set of data into conclusions. Fair enough, we need that. But to what extent? First of all, we should never forget that the result of an algorithm isn't only about what we know. It's also about what we don't know. I don't believe that machines can make choices for humans. And I don't believe that humans can make the right decisions by themselves for the entire planet. More than 15 years ago, a computer beat Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion. Many of you will know that. You might want to know that a few years later, a rematch took place between two teams, a team of two machines against a team of one human and one machine. Guess who won? Every time. The combination of a human and a machine gave the greatest results, as the machine was giving advice, and the human was free to follow them or not. Because machines are always logical, where humans are creative and sometimes irrational. And this is my point. Technology is an assistant. I chose to start Monkey Tie as a technology business because it was the only way to have the greatest impact on as many young job seekers as possible. But it is a human-centered business, not only because we specifically ask people for their data, we need to advise them, but also because we understand technology is only a tool, not a master. In the 16th century, François Rabelais said something. Science without wisdom is the ruin of the soul. 500 years later, it couldn't be more right. So trust technology, do trust it. Trust it to enable business. Embrace innovation as an opportunity. But always wonder what the role of technology is, no matter what you use it for. Thank you.
Three of you that way into the audience to man the microphones.
Going upstairs. Beth to the microphone in the front here. AJ, can I ask you to take the next one back there?
So if you'd like to go down and man the microphones, and you're going to be introducing the questions or comments from the floor. So if one of you on each microphone.
You show the councillors where to go, yeah?
And we have a couple of people who have to go and get flights, and we have Mary Robinson.
No. That's there. Yeah.
We have Mary Robinson, who has a very hard stop at 5:30, so we're going to be kicking off the next session at 4:45. So we've got about 35 minutes to get some comments and questions from the floor. If you have a specific question for somebody, you can address it to them, and then we'll give each of the councillors an ability to comment as we wrap up. So we've probably got time for a couple of people per microphone, depending on how quick you are. Some awesome ideas there. Whoa. It's good. So let's start with Beth. Do you have somebody there with a comment or a question? Yes.
Sure, you have a comment? Great. Identify yourself.
This is Fernando Arenas. I'm from Venezuela. I was reflecting about all these technology startups and the lack of infrastructure that there is in Latin America and in Africa. Governments should spend more in building the technology infrastructure in order to make the less developed areas in South America and Africa be also access to all this technology and create all these companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Great comment. Doug, we're going up to you in the roof.
Doug, yes, we're going to need volunteers to get them back in. A lot of them are...
I'm Fatma Yusuf from the United Arab Emirates. I'm a biology major as well as a computer engineer. So after hearing about the vaccine, it's really wonderful to see great efforts towards decreasing the medical financial costs, especially if that is really costly. However, I would like to point out one thing is that mostly the problem with vaccines in poor, undeveloped countries is that the awareness. I've been to a couple of countries, and the problem is that people don't listen and don't want to take the vaccines, thinking it's kind of sort of something dangerous. So I think a combination between and actually decreasing the financial as well as giving awareness and clearing the idea about vaccine would be a great combination. So that's all, but great idea, and that's wonderful. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. Elio.
Yes, we have Andika here. Hi, my name is Andika Putrasudarman, and I'm from Indonesia. So I'm pretty interested in, I have 3 points. First of all is that you can see out of 6 speakers, more than 4, like 5 are about technology, so we can really see how technology is our future. And the second point is that I'm pretty interested in the barter application. But I have a few concerns on this, but you probably have considered beforehand. But allow me to ask you these questions. First, we all know that in developing nations, one of the most pressing issues is that about counterfeit money. And how would you assure that the money exchange in the barter is not counterfeit money? And second is that we also realize that regarding the independent suggested meeting point, in Indonesia, for example, in 2012, there was a one woman killed just because she broke $200 on the street. So let's say that if we have an independent suggested meeting point, whereas there is a scammer using this opportunity to scam someone, and what is your answer about that? So, and my last point, which is my third point, I always remember that when you want to walk fast, you walk alone, but if you want to walk far, you walk together. And that's why, please open the forum for us to collaborate. For example, you have the idea, we have the suggestions, and we can talk more about this. It's not only about barter, but also every ideas. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, the guys in the next edition actually have a scanner that you can check if the money is counterfeit or not. So you guys should talk about all that, but it sounds like they've got it sussed. President Toledo.
My friend Alok from the United States has a question.
Thank you, President. Good afternoon to everyone here, and I know there are a lot of people going to ask questions, so I'll keep it short. My question is for Vibin. Vibin, very inspiring work that you're doing. And the question I have is around the fact that you suggested with Pfizer having more money than the United States itself. And it's a completely understandable, and it's a fascinating fact as well, where corporates can actually take up the mantle of humanity and really serve and really provide vaccines and medicines to patient groups which cannot really have that. But I also know that companies do that, right? I work for Bristol Myers Squibb, and as you must already know, and for others, we are into business of researching, marketing, and manufacturing medicines for unmet medical needs. So what we do is, for 2013, to give everyone an idea, Bristol Myers Squibb donated medicines worth $800 million which quite honestly is more than a country's economic budget to begin with, right? But the question I feel is that sometimes it's really an access problem, that the companies and the corporates are donating, but it may not be going in the right direction where it needs to go. So my question to you is, what do you think about the access? And a request would be if we can connect whenever you have time, today or tomorrow. On that, I would like to have a dialogue with you.
We'll come to that when we do the last wrap round, so remember that point. President Fox, who do you have at the microphone?
My pleasure to introduce Rosie Woodin from United Kingdom with a very interesting question and comment to corporate world.
Thank you very much. Beth, I liked your phrase, profits with purpose, and I agree that corporates really need to embrace good in order to do well. And after Elio's presentation yesterday, Kate, you made a bit of a challenge to the delegates here to go back to their own corporations and to drive change within them. I'd like to offer my help in that to the delegates. I run a consultancy which basically helps corporates do well whilst doing good through communication, technology, and innovation. And so I just spoke to my co-founder, and we'd like to offer our services for free to One Young World delegates in order to sort of supercharge the One Young World effect and hopefully strengthen your case to your CEOs and things.
Awesome. Maybe not all 1,300 of you, but awesome.
So if you, should I just say how they can get in touch?
How can they get in touch with you?
If you want to tweet me at Rosie Warin, I'll do a couple of tweets after this.
And how do you spell Warin?
W-A-R-I-N.
Perfect, thank you. Anthony.
I have Jalal Sheikh here from Chicago has a question for me, apparently.
Yes, so just to say wow about all of you up there. I'm also a technology entrepreneur. And so I work for PNC Bank. It's the 5th largest bank in the US. And so you're a CEO bank in banking. How do you feel about your employees if they wanted to be entrepreneurs, but they work full-time for you? I know you're paying them. You want all their focus on your work, but they're also trying to be social entrepreneurs. So I wanted to get your feelings on that. I'm sure all the Barclays entrepreneurs out there.
I mean, we at Barclays have been huge sponsors of development of all sorts of innovation. Right now, we've got 11 fintech startups which we're nurturing through the development cycle. So if people in Barclays want to do this outside of their time at Barclays, frankly, I'm very supportive of it because I think it's good for them and ultimately it'd be good for us. Obviously, people have to do the work we pay them to do, but outside of that, I see no issue with it at all, and it's something we'd want to encourage. The other thing we also do is provide sabbaticals and that kind of thing, time off for people who want to pursue these things, maybe for a period of time, see whether it works out, and then come back if they want to. So, very supportive.
And Anthony, specifically in Barclays, is doing some great work with entrepreneurs on the back of One Young World as well. So, practicing what he preaches. Beth, who do you have at the microphone?
Yes, happy to introduce Yukari Kayama from Japan. Yukari.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to thank all the speakers for inspiring talks. And I have a question for the 5th speaker. Sorry, I just missed the name. You mentioned that it is important not to think about like only profits, but we should forget about it and just help for people. And I really like that point and very inspired with that. Thank you very much. And my question is that in principle, people believe and it is important, but at the same time, it is very easy for us to forget about things, and sometimes people tend to take profit rather than helping other people. So my question is how each of us can think about the social good rather than profit. Is it education, or do you have any other means? If you have any ideas, I'm glad if you could tell me about it. Thank you.
Vibin, that's for you.
Well, we'll give you the mic then. You can answer those 2 questions. Thank you very much. Great point, or great question. Doug, up there.
I'd like to introduce Fauzan Maulana from Indonesia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for the wonderful and inspiring speeches. So I'm from a country called Indonesia. We're still developing, and we hope to be the 7th largest economy in a few years, but we still see that that's a long way off, and we see that technology is a huge part in playing that role to delivering us there. But the problem with Indonesia currently is that we're a very consumptive country, and playing a part in technology, we feel that's also a problem, our consumption. Like, in Facebook, we are one of the top 3 Facebook users populations in the whole world. That just shows how consumptive we are in technology. And the problem with that is that we don't know how to create because we consume too much. Now, how do you feel in developing countries? What are your suggestions for us to spread computer illiteracy and how to teach people to be more familiar in creating technology, how to be more familiar in the languages of coding? We think that it's going to be a really great help in moving our economy forward for the global economy. Thank you.
Great. We'll have one of the presidents answer that when we come back up onto the stage. Elio.
Yes, we have Michael Ju here from Australia. Michael works at Plenary and has a point from that company perspective about how to pull together and not always see alcohol as a bad thing.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet everyone here. Basically, we're from a company called Plenary. We have some familiar brands such as Absolute, Shivers, Valentine's, and all the Irish here, Jameson. Basically, we have recently formed a group called the Youth Action Council, which is short for YAC. What we want to do here is basically, we are the voice of the young in our group, and we have direct relationships with our executives across 80 to 100 markets. And what we want to do here is use what we have in our company, whether it's alcohol or the resources that we use, in order to make positive change. And I want to take this opportunity for everyone to come and see us. We have 10 delegates from our company. We'll be probably having dinner right at the front where the big screen is. So come over and tell us some ideas, and we will become your voice, and we'll return them into actions. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. President Toledo.
Let me introduce my friend from India, Paris, please.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, David. Just a quick thing. I'm going to connect 2 parts of things that 2 speakers spoke about. Now, firstly, technology, business, and innovation is going very well hand in hand. But the first bit, we heard about how security of their profile on the internet is something I personally freak out about these days. So I'll keep that in context. But then taking it to barter, how do you see people build trust in a social platform when people know too much about you?
Interesting. President Fox.
Sorry. Now, my pleasure to introduce Diana Hinova from Bulgaria.
Hello, everybody. My question, or rather a statement, whether I'd like to see if you agree or not, and if you think this is going to change in the future, is most of us here are in this room and on the stage as well as off, are from backgrounds that are not native English speakers. We function in multiple languages, whereas most technology applications and innovations today happen primarily in English. Do you think that this is having a flattening effect on some aspects of culture that are important for business as well as just for the realization of us as individuals? And do you think that that might change in the future, and how?
Very good question, thank you. Anthony.
I have Xu Yu from China, but who is working in London. She has another question for me. But it's a good, we all agreed it was a good question, so please go ahead and ask.
So I work for a big investment company, and the job we do, we actually have a great chance of making change in the world by channeling capital to where the society has the highest need. But I'm in this weird soul-searching process, because if a company's performance is simply measured by its share price, then all the fund managers and investors are pushing the company to drive up revenue, cut costs, and lay off people, and do all sorts of things that might not be maximizing the social benefit. And I'm just wondering, what can we do to change this current financial structure where companies are run for their shareholders and share price?
Great question. Anthony.
So it is a great question, and I agree not to mention the organization that she works for. There are some large fund management companies that are focused exclusively on the short term and are only interested in that. There are other companies that take a broader and longer term perspective. There is definitely a continuum. But I also think it's the responsibility of leaders to set that perspective inside their organization. 2 years ago at One Young World in Pittsburgh, I made a commitment to put purpose at the heart of values, but purpose at the heart of Barclays, but I also made a commitment to run the business for the short and the long term. And in order to create that, we established a balanced scorecard. There are 8 commitments that we've made under that scorecard. If you go to our website, you'll see those commitments. Those commitments have targets through to the end of 2018, and only 2 of them are financial. Now, that set of commitments is embedded into my organization through goals that are set on an annual basis for my teams. So, of course, we have to deliver short-term profitability for our shareholders, but it's not either or, it's a case of and. And balanced scorecards and metrics are the way that you can establish a long-term perspective in big organizations. Finally, I would say that some organizations have different versions of this. Be interested to know what GE does. But in essence, I believe that in order to deliver in the short and the long term across a more complex range of objectives, companies have to be inherently higher performing. And therefore, I believe that there will be commercial advantage to shareholders in building that type of organization. And that's what we're seeking to prove at Barclays, although it will take several years to establish that.
Excellent, thank you. Now, if we go really fast, we need like 20, 30-second comments. We can get one more in from each microphone. So Beth, we'll start with you, but we need you to go really fast, guys.
I'm happy to introduce Vikram, who works in Singapore and is from India.
I'd like to know how you think technology is going to change the way companies engage with employees. And in a couple of words, something that I'd like to understand is how transparency would be different. I believe myself and a lot more people from my generation want to see a lot more into the decision making and also add ways that we can take part in the decision making. So how can that happen with technology? And in a similar parallel, how will the governments engage with citizens better in decision making as well as in transparency?
3 small questions there. Thanks very much. Beth, would you like to come back up on stage and we'll go up there to Doug?
Lorna from Kenya.
My name is Lorna from Kenya. I'm a student at Strathmore University studying a BCE in Leadership and Management. My question is to Bata mobile application. How have you decided to make sure we get authentic notes so that we don't fall prey to crooks who may decide to exchange this money? So my suggestion is you can cooperate with country communication team or communication.
They actually answered that. They have the second version of their app will actually have a scanner in, so you'll be able to scan the notes to check that they are genuine.
Okay.
So they already have that plan. But thank you very much for the point.
Consider a DTA in the forum, sweetheart, as well. They'll be in the forum. You can talk to them. Because they want to meet up with you and talk about this stuff. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Elio.
Okay, we have Ara from Thailand, and she has a questions about financial inclusion. Ara.
Hi, I have a question for Mr. Jenkins. How do you see the role of technology in the mainstream financial institution to make all the financial services more accessible for people?
We'll get Anthony to answer that when he's back up on stage. So thank you for that question. President Toledo? Yes?
I would like to make just a final reflection from my part.
We're going to ask you all to do that on stage. So if you save your final reflection for when you're back
No,
up.
I'll do that over there.
Okay, great. So, and you have the microphone, sorry.
Hi, my name is Giselle, and I'm from Brazil. And I'd like to ask a question to Lucy, and it's about technology and security. I work for a charity who have been rescuing, rehabilitating, and reintegrating street children in Brazil for over 21 years. And, sorry, it's a long question. We know that one of the worst forms of modern slavery is the trafficking of children for the sexual exploitation, for the sex market. And we know that the internet fuels this kind of crime. So in your opinion, what's the role of companies like Google, and what is the possibility of legislation being passed globally to ban images of the, the sexual exploitation of children on the internet?
And I'd also say anybody who shares that passion, why don't you get together and work out how you can use technology to provide a solution for that?
I just want to say that I work for a charity called happychild.org, so please look us up.
Yeah. And get together in the break and fantastic.
Make your comments on the stage.
President Fox to finish. Anthony's over there.
It's a pleasure again to introduce Bismillah Ishaq from United Kingdom, talking about a great subject, next generation.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Bismillah Ishaq from the UK. I work for GE. I was on their Information Technology Leadership Program. And it's great to see so many technologists here in the room. But one thing I just wanted to make a statement about is we have to also look at the next generation. So currently, for example, in the UK, they're struggling to find teachers who can actually teach IT in classrooms. So it's great that we have a passion here, but we need to make sure that that's only going to continue and excel in the future. So I just want to make an awareness about that it's our responsibility to make sure that this hype continues and only goes further.
Great
Thank you.
And finally, Anthony, last question from that mic.
Very quickly, I have my colleague Ben Grout from Barclays here. He's got an offer for the Barts team, so go ahead.
Hi, Barty. I was listening to the gentleman's concerns on the balcony earlier about exchanging the cash and the risks around that. And it struck a chord with me because I work in the cash management and payment space for financial institutions, for Barclays, funnily enough, so it's your lucky day. And so I specifically support payments companies, applications, brokers, etc., with all of Barclays' solutions. So I'd be really keen to meet with you after, because I believe that we can really launch this business straight out of the ground, straight out of One Young World this year. So please come and find me. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Anthony, if you'd return to the stage. Now we're going to ask each of our councillors to either give us a quick comment, answer one of the questions, express a point of view. And I think one thing, the fact that we have a panel of this stature and it's some of the most senior people, not just in world leadership, but in business leadership, speaks to the fact that this is of real concern to them and to the world. So Elio, we will kick off.
Sorry, before Elio starts, Davey, beg your pardon. Sorry, I know I'm bullying some of you at the back there, and I'm really sorry. It's just what I'm trying to say to you is the next session. You've got Mary Robinson and Kofi Annan on, and there isn't going to be a break. We're going to be moving very quickly. So just trying to tell people who are going out, and I know you all need to go to the loo, but I'm just trying to tell you, and if you're going out, just know we will be moving very quickly, okay? So if you see anybody outside, come back.
So a final minute-long comment or reflection, Elio.
I'll be shorter than this. I think that my only comment is that in all of these technology ideas, evidence that they can be realized in very practical terms. I just, I am amazed by the opportunity that if that sort of capacity of translation into action be applied to the amount of people that is in this room, which really have the knowledge and the competences to make a difference in whatever field of application, the impact that can come out of this room would be absolutely amazing. So what I hear here is that things can be done, and what I see there is the potential to do many more. And I think it's just very inspiring to see and to feel.
Excellent. President Fox.
No doubt technology is a driving force in this 21st century, but please, let's not forget about humanism. Let's not forget that we are not only memory, intelligence, talent, but we are heart, soul, and the best expression that human beings have is love. It's love for others. It's making sure that we understand that the shortcut to happiness has to do with us giving others, with us being for others. This is crucial on this 21st century. Tomorrow, there will be a great man here, the Nobel laureate, Mohamed Yunus. He not only came out with this idea of moving out of poverty over 100 million human beings and families, but now he's started this crusade on what he calls social businesses, which was mentioned here. It's not profits, the incentive. The incentive is our own happiness, our own self-realization, and us doing something for our neighbor and for other human beings.
Great, thank you. President Toledo.
I'm living with the impression that in this room, we might have many Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerbergs, and I'm glad that technology could help narrow the differences between the poor and the rich. Number two, we live in a very interdependent world. The world has shrunk. Let me beg you something. To be global, to be interdependent is not incongruent with keeping your cultural identity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Doug.
I'm very optimistic by the companies and the things I hear in this room. But I just think it's important to remember that technology is in and of itself a neutral. It can be a sword or it can be a plowshare. It can help or it can hurt. And so I get very despairing when I see technology companies grow and lose their moral compass, as they inevitably seem to do. And so when very large companies claim that they want to do no evil in their strapline, and yet then maximize profits by avoiding their fair share of taxation, by hiding offshore, or claiming that in the interest of transparency they steal all our data without our knowing it, I worry.
Beth.
Building on what Doug said, just a reminder that the best technologies in the world, the most meaningful ones, are tethered to a need. They solve a problem, not technology for technology's sake. The marketer and the innovator in me knows that. And just to reiterate what I think we've heard here today, that the world's biggest problems can't be solved alone. It's about collaboration. Big companies are made of good, generally, the best big companies are made of good people who wake up every day with a mission. They've been around, they know scale, they know how to survive. Small companies are fueled by passion and a need to meet those needs now, and governments have an important role to play of serving the will of their people to thrive and succeed. Together, those three forces can make amazing things happen, and that really is the future, big to small, private to public.
Fantastic, thank you. Vipin, did you just want to pick up one of the questions that you were asked?
Yeah, I was asked about financial inclusion and whether technology can help. I think technology absolutely can help, but I don't think it's the only solution. We've run a project called Banking on Change with Plan and Care International. We've helped over 600,000 very low-income people get out of poverty around the world since 2009, and that is an incredibly low-tech solution. In fact, it's a no-tech solution. So there are definitely ways that you can build a financial system using technology, and that's great, but there's also low-tech ways you can do it. The other question that I got asked that we didn't get to was I worried about being disintermediated by the gentleman on my right? And my own response to that was, well, of course not, because you can't stand in the way of progress. So what you have to do is make sure it works for you. But I think my colleague actually said it much better than I did, and we're actually here to help you be successful.
Excellent, thank you. So let's give a huge round of applause to the delegate speakers and the councillors. Thank you so much. If you want to lead the way, Elio, that'd be great. Fantastic panel, thank you so much.